Hi everyone, and welcome to another segment of chapter 3 and 4 of The Sea of Monsters. We are going to fight with Percy Jackson on this one again. It has been a superb two chapters for now. Annabeth has absolutely been amazing. I absolutely loved the way she entered the her entry in the scene was so badass. Absolutely loved it. And oh my god, I'm so soft for Tyson. I just want to give that big old log a hug. Seriously. And Percy is very quick on his feet. I must say his brain works so fast. He has quick survival instincts, and we love that about a hero. So that was chapter 1 and 2, which was fantabulous. We are now moving on to chapter 3 and chapter 4. As you can see, I have this bookmark. I actually invested in quite a few. I saw them in a store. I liked them and I got them. Um, Many are similar, but many are mostly European, France and London and many other. I haven't looked into them all, but New York and Washington D.C. all these are a few of them. So obviously this is going to be the bookmark for Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Oh my god, I cannot still get over the lightning thief. So let's get started with chapter 3. Oh, and if you are new, my name is Brittany. I just like to read, and this is how I spend most of my time. And yeah, if you like this, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is going to be one of my livelihoods. Might as well make it worthwhile. So, chapter 3. This is quite a newer book because it was there in the pile. It looked new, so I thought might as well because the first book looked really in poor condition. If you want to see how that book looked like, go to the previous videos I did. I have read the part 1 of Percy Jackson. Let's get started with chapter 3. We hailed a taxi from eternal torment. Annabeth was waiting for us in an alley down Church Street. She pulled Tyson and me off the sidewalk, just as a fire truck screamed past, heading for Meriwether Prep. "Where did you find him?" she demanded, pointing at Tyson. Now, under different circumstances, I would have been really happy to see her. We'd made our peace last summer, despite the fact that her mom was Athena and didn't get along with my dad. I'd missed Annabeth probably more than I wanted to admit. But I had just been attacked by cannibal giants. Tyson had saved my life 3 or 4 times, and all Annabeth could do was glare at him like he was the problem. "He's my friend," I told her. "Is he homeless?" "What does that have to do with anything? He can hear you, you know. Why don't you ask him?" "He can talk." She looked surprised. "I talk. You are pretty," Tyson admitted. "Tyson, you stole my words." Ah, gross. Annabeth stepped away from him. I couldn't believe she was being so rude. I examined Tyson's hand, which I was sure must have been badly scorched by the flame dodgeballs, but they looked fine, grimy and scarred with dirty fingernails the size of potato chips. But they always looked like that. "Tyson," I said in disbelief, "your hands aren't even burned." Of course not, Annabeth muttered. I'm surprised the Lystrigonians had the guts to attack you with him around. Tyson seemed fascinated with Annabeth's blonde hair. He tried to touch it, but she smacked his hand away. Annabeth, what are you talking about? Les Lestri what? Lestrigonians, the monsters in the gym. They're a race of giant cannibals who live in the far north. Odysseus ran into them once, but I've never seen them as far south as New York before. Lestri I can't even say that. What should you call them in English? Oh god, the next line is absolutely killing me. She thought about it for a moment. Canadians, she decided. Oh my god. Now come on, we have to get out of here. The police will be after me. That's the least of our problems. Have you been having the dreams about Grover? Her face turned pale. Grover? No, what about Grover? I told her my dream. Why, what were you dreaming about? Her eyes looked stormy, like her mind was racing a million miles an hour. Camp. Big trouble at camp. My mom was saying the same thing, but what kind of trouble? I don't know exactly. Something's wrong. We have to get there right away. Monsters have been chasing me all the way from Virginia, trying to stop me. Have you had a lot of attacks? None. All year, until today. I shook my head. None? But how? Her eyes drifted to Tyson. Oh, what do you mean, oh? Tyson raised his hand like he was still in class. Canadians in the gym called Percy something. Son of the sea god? Annabeth and I exchanged looks. I didn't know how I could explain, but I figured Tyson deserved the truth after almost getting killed. Big guy, you ever heard those old stories about Greek gods like Zeus, Poseidon, Athena? Yes. Well, those gods are still alive. They kind of follow Western civilization around, living in the strongest countries, like now they're in US. And sometimes they have kids with mortals. Kids called half-bloods. Yes, Tyson said, like he was still waiting for me to get to the point. Uh, well, Annabeth and I are half-bloods. We're like heroes in training, and whenever monsters pick up our scent, they attack us. That's what those giants were in the gym. Monsters. Yes. I stared at him. I, he didn't seem surprised or confused by what I was telling him, which surprised and confused me. So, you believe me? Tyson nodded. But you are son of the sea god? Yeah, I admitted. My dad is Poseidon. Tyson frowned. Now he looked confused. But then a siren wailed. A police car raced past our alley. We don't have time for this. We'll talk about this in taxi. A taxi all the way to camp? You know how much money he trusts to me. I hesitated. What about Tyson? I imagined escorting my giant friend into Camp Half-Blood. If he freaked out on a regular playground with regular bullies, how would he act at a training camp for demigods? On the other hand, the cops would be looking for us. We can't just leave him, I decided. We'll be in trouble too. Yeah, Annabeth looked grim. We definitely need to take him. Now, come on. I didn't like the way she said that, as if Tyson were a big disease. We needed to get to the hospital, but I followed her down the alley. Together, the three of us sneaked through the side streets of downtown while a huge column of smoke billowed up behind us from a school gymnasium. Here, she stopped us on the corner of Thomas and Trimble. She fished, she fished around in her backpack. I hope I have one left. She looked even worse than I'd realized at first. Her chin was cut, twigs and grass were tangled in her ponytail, as if she'd slept several nights in the open. The slashes on the hems of her jeans looked suspiciously like claw marks. "What are you looking for?" All around us sirens wailed. I figured it wouldn't be long before more cops cruised by, looking for juvenile delinquent gym bombers. No doubt Matt Sloan had given them a statement by now. He'd probably twisted the story around so that Tyson and I were the bloodthirsty cannibals. Found one, thank gods. Annabeth pulled out a gold coin and that I recognized as a drachma, the currency of Mount Olympus. It had Zeus's likeness stamped on one side and Empire State Building on the other. "Annabeth, New York taxi drivers won't take that," I said. "Anna coche harma Ephthribios," she shouted in ancient Greek. As usual, the moment she spoke in the language of Olympus, somehow I understood. She said, "Stop, chariot of damnation." That didn't exactly make me feel real excited about whatever her plan was. She threw her coin in the street, but instead of clattering on the tarmac, the drachma sank right through and disappeared. For a moment nothing happened. Then, just where the coin had fallen, the tarmac darkened. It melted into a rectangular pool about the size of a parking space, bubbling red liquid like blood. Then a car erupted from the ooze. It was a taxi, all right, but unlike e- every other taxi in New York, it wasn't yellow. It was smoky gray. I mean, it looked like it was woven out of smoke, like you could walk right through it. There were words printed on the door, something like Geyer cities, but my dyslexia made it hard for me to decipher what it said. The passenger window rolled down and an old woman stuck her head out. She had a mop of grizzled hair covering her eyes, and she spoke in a weird, mumbling way like she'd just had a shot of Novocaine. "Passage, passage, 3 to Half-Blood, Camp Half-Blood," Annabeth said. She opened the cab's back door and waved at me to get in, like this was all completely normal. "Ugh, we don't take his kind." She pointed a bony finger at Tyson. "What was it? Pick on Big and Ugly Kids Day? Extra pay. 3 more drachmas on arrival." "Done," the woman screamed. Reluctantly, I got in the cab. Tyson squeezed in the middle. Annabeth crawled in last. The interior was also smoky gray, but it felt solid enough. The seat was cracked and lumpy, not different than most taxis. There was no plexiglass screen separating us from the old lady driving. Wait a minute. There wasn't just one old lady. There were 3, crammed in the front seat with stringy hair covering their eyes, bony hands, and a charcoal-colored sackcloth dress. The one driving said, "Long Island, one out of metro fare bonus." Ha! She floored the accelerator and my head slammed against the backrest. A pre-recorded voice came on over speaker. "Hi, this is..." N- Ganymede, cupbearer of Zeus, and when I'm out buying wine for the Lord of Skies, I always buckle up. I looked about and found a huge black chain instead of seat belt. I decided I wasn't that desperate yet. The cab sped around the corner of West Broadway, and the gray lady sitting in the middle screeched, "Look out, go left." Well, if you'd give me the eye, Tempest, I could see that. Wait a minute, you give her the eye? I didn't have time to ask questions because the driver swerved to avoid an incoming delivery truck, ran over the curb with a jaw-rattling thump, and flew into the next block. "Wasp!" the third lady said to the driver. "Give me the girl's coin. I want to bite it." "You bit it last time, Anger. It's my turn," said the driver, whose name must have been Wasp. "Is not," yelled the one called Anger. The middle one, Tempest, screamed. "Red light! Brake!" yelled Anger. Instead, Wasp floored the accelerator and rode up on the curb, screeching around another corner and knocking over a newspaper box. She left my stomach somewhere back on the Broom Street. "Excuse me, but can you see?" I said. "No!" screamed Wasp from behind the wheel. "No!" screamed Tempest from the middle. "Of course!" screamed Anger by the shotgun window. I looked at Annabeth. "They're blind." "Not completely. They have an eye," Annabeth said. "One eye?" "Yeah, each." "No, one eye. Total." Next to me, Tyson groaned and grabbed the seat. "Not feeling so good." "Oh man," I said because I'd seen Tyson get car sick on the school field trips, and it was not something you wanted to be within 15 meters of. "Hang in there, big guy. Anybody got a garbage bag or something?" The three gray ladies were too busy squabbling to pay me any attention. I looked over at Annabeth, who was hanging on for dear life, and I gave her a "why did you do this to me" look. "Hey," she said, "Grey Sister's taxi is the fastest way to the camp." "Then why didn't you take it from Virginia?" "That's outside the service area. They only serve Greater New York and surrounding communities." You said like that should be obvious. "We've had famous people in this cab," Anger exclaimed. "Jason, you remember him." "Don't remind me," Wasp wailed. "And we didn't have a cab back then, you old bat. That was 3,000 years ago." "Give me the truth." Anger tried to grab a Wasp's mouth, but Wasp swatted her hand away. "Only Tempest gives me the eye." "No, you had it yesterday." "And I'm driving, you old hag." "Excuses. Turn. That was your turn." Wasp swiveled hard into Delancey Street, squishing me between Tyson and the door. She punched the gas, and we shot up the Williamsburg Bridge at 70 miles an hour. The three sisters were fighting for real now, slapping each other as I tried to grab at Wasp's face and Wasp tried to grab Tempest's. With their hair flying and their mouths open, screaming at each other, I realized that none of the sisters had any teeth except for Wasp, who had one mossy yellow incisor. Instead of eyes, they just had closed, sunken eyelids. except for Anger, who had one bloodshot green eye that stared at everything hungrily, as if it couldn't get enough of anything it saw. Finally, Anger, who had the advantage of sight, managed to yank the tooth out of her sister Wasp's mouth. This made Wasp so mad she swiveled towards the edge of the Williamsburg Bridge, yelling, "Give it back! Give it back!" It's give it back, not even give it, because she has no tooth. Tyson groaned and clutched his stomach. If anybody's interested, we are going to die. Don't worry, Annabeth told me, sounding pretty worried. The Grey sisters know what they're doing. They're really very wise. This coming from the daughter of Athena, but I wasn't exactly reassured. We were skimming along the edge of the bridge 40 meters above the East River. Yes, wise. And we grinned in the rearview mirrors, showing off her newly acquired tooth. We know things. Every street in Manhattan was bragged, still hitting her sister, the capital of Nepal. The location you seek, Tempest added. Immediately her sisters pummeled her from either side, screaming, "Be quiet, be quiet." He didn't even ask yet. What location? I'm not seeking any. Nothing. You're right, boy. It's nothing, Tempest said. Tell me. No, they all screamed. The last time we told it was horrible, Tempest said. I tossed in a lake, Anger agreed. Years to find it back. Wasp moaned. And speaking of that, give it back. No, yelled Anger. I. Gimme, Wasp yelled. She whacked her sister Anger on the back. There was a sickening pop, and something flew out of Anger's face. Anger fumbled for it, trying to catch it, but she only managed to pat it with the back of her hand. The slimy green orb sailed over her shoulder into the back seat and straight into my lap. I jumped so hard, my head hit the ceiling and the eyeball rolled away. I can't see. Give me the eye. Give her the eye. Annabeth squeaked. I don't have it, I said. There, by your foot. Don't step on it. Get it, Annabeth said. I'm not picking that up. The taxi slammed against the guardrail and skidded along with a horrible grinding noise. The whole car shuddered, billowing grey smoke as if it were about to dissolve from the stream. Going to be sick, Tyson warned. Annabeth, let Tyson use her backpack. Are you crazy? Give the eye. Wasp yanked the wheel and the taxi swerved away from the rail. We hurled towards the bridge. We hurled down the bridge towards Brooklyn, going faster than any human taxi. The Grey sisters screeched and pummeled each other and cried out for their eye. At last I steeled my nerves. I ripped off a chunk of my tie-dyed T-shirt, which was already falling apart from all the burn marks, and used it to pick up the eyeball off the floor. Nice, boy, Anger cried, as if she somehow knew I had her missing people. Give it back. Not until you explain what were you talking about the location I seek. No time. Accelerating. Tempest cried. I looked out the window. Sure enough, trees and cars and whole neighborhoods were now zipping by in a gray blur. We were already out of Brooklyn, heading through the middle of Long Island. Percy, we can't find our destination without the eye, Annabeth warned. We'll just keep accelerating until we break into a million pieces. First, they have to tell me, or I'll open the window and throw the eye into oncoming traffic. No, too dangerous, the Grey sisters wailed. I'm rolling down the window. Wait, the Grey sisters screamed. 30, 31, 75, 12. They belted it out like a quarterback calling a play. What do you mean? That makes no sense. 30, 31, 75, 12. Anglo wailed. That's all we can tell you. Give us the eye. Almost to camp. We were off the highway now, zipping through the countryside of northern Long Island. I could see Hoplet Hill already ahead of us, with its giant pine tree at the crest. Thalia's tree, which contained the life bones of a fallen hero. Percy, Annabeth said more urgently, give them the eye. Now. I decided not to argue. I threw the eye into Wasp's lap. The old lady snatched it up and pushed it in her eye socket like somebody putting in a contact lens and blinked. Whoa! She slammed on the brakes. The taxi spun 4 or 5 times in a cloud of smoke and squealed to a halt in the middle of the farm road at the base of Hopwood Hill. Better now. Tyson let loose a huge belch. All right, now tell me what those numbers mean. Mm, I told the Grey sisters. No time. We have to get out. Now. Annabeth opened her door. I was about to ask why when I looked up Half-Blood Hill and understood. At the crest of the hill was a group of campers, and they were under attack. Well, would you look at that? The entire Half-Blood Hill is out there getting killed. I'm not pulling any comparison of some sort, but it is kind of like Harry Potter. I know. Rick Riordan must not have done that, but as a literary student, it becomes a habit to see the same thing happening over and over again. So it is kind of similar that in Harry Potter and the Secret of Chamber of Secrets, Harry was being forced not to go to was told by literally everyone in the beginning that he shouldn't go to Hogwarts and he still goes there. Same thing happens with Percy here. He's repeatedly told that he shouldn't go to Camp Half-Blood and yet he goes there because his friends and family want and because his friends want him to. And I think it's fantastic how it's reached that that way. Anyway, chapter 3 was very interesting. I will be very honest, I do not know any mythology related to the Grey Sisters. Might have read about them somewhere a long time ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, but I do not remember anything right now. So yeah, maybe after I'm done reading, I might look it up, their mythology and how they've helped people and how I shouldn't confuse them with the fates because it is, I assume, very different. The Grey Sisters and the Fates being really different. Anyway, so chapter 4, we are on chapter 4. We are gaining there faster. It's a long chapter 4 and we are here for it. Chapter 4, Tyson plays with fire. Mythologically speaking, if there's anything I hate worse than trios of old ladies, it's bulls. Last summer, I fought the Minotaur on top of the Half-Blood Hill. This time, what I saw up there was even worse. 2 bulls, and not just regular bulls, bronze ones, the size of elephants. And even that wasn't bad enough. Naturally, they had to breathe fire too. As soon as we exited the taxi, the Grey sisters peeled out, heading back to New York, where life was safer. They didn't even wait for their extra 3 drachma payment. They just left us on the side of the road. Annabeth with nothing but her backpack and knife, Tyson and me still in our burned up, tie-dyed gym clothes. Oh man, said Annabeth, looking at the battle raging on the hill. What worried me most weren't the bulls themselves, or the 10 heroes in full battle armor were getting their bronze-plated booties whooped. What worried me was that the bulls were ranging all over the hill, even around the back of the pine tree. That shouldn't have been possible. The camp's magic boundaries didn't allow monsters to cross past Thalia's tree, but the metal bolts were doing it anyway. One of the heroes shouted, "Border Patrol!" To me, a girl's voice, rough and familiar. Border Patrol? I thought. The camp didn't have a border patrol. It's Clarice, Annabeth said. Come on, we have to help her. Normally, rushing to Clarice's aid would not have been high on my to-do list. She was one of the biggest bullies at camp. The first time she'd met, she tried to introduce my head to the toilet. She was also daughter of Ares, and I'd had a very serious disagreement with her father last summer. So now the god of war and all his children basically hated my guts. Still, she was in trouble. Her fellow warriors were scattering, running in panic as the bulls charged. The grass was burning in huge swaths around the pine tree. One hero screamed and waved his arms as he ran in circles, the horsehair plum on his helmet blazing like a fiery mohawk. Clarice's own armor was charred. She was fighting with a broken spear shaft, the other end embedded uselessly in the metal joint of one bull's shoulder. I uncapped my ballpoint pen. It shimmered, growing longer and heavier until I held the bronze rod and marked Cosmos in my hands. Tyson, stay here. I don't want you taking any more chances. No, we need him. He's a mortal. He got lucky with the dodgeballs, but he can't Percy. Do you know what those are up there? The Holkis bulls made by Augustus himself. We can't fight without Medea's sunscreen SPF 550,000. We'll get burned to a crisp. Medea's what? Annabeth rummaged through her backpack and cursed. I had a jar of tropical coconut scent sitting on my nightstand at home. Why didn't I bring it? I'd learned a long time not to ask Annabeth questions too much. It just made me more confused. Look, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to let Tyson get fried. Percy, Tyson, stay back. I'm going in. I raised my sword. Tyson tried to protest, but I was already running up the hill towards Clarice, was yelling at her patrol, trying to get them into phalanx formation. It was a good idea. The few of The few who were listening lined up, shoulder to shoulder, locking their shields in form of ox hide and bronze wool, their spears bristling over the top like porcupine quills. Unfortunately, Clarice could only muster 6 campers. The other 4 were still running around with their helmets on fire. Annabeth ran towards them, trying to help. She taunted one of the bulls into chasing her, then turned invisible, completely confusing the monster. The other bull charged Clarice's line, was halfway up the hill, not close enough to help. Clarice hadn't seen me yet. The bull moved deadly fast for something so big. Its metal hide gleamed in the sun. It had fist-sized rubies for eyes and horns of polished silver. When it opened its hinged mouth, a column of white-hot flame blasted out. "Hold the line," Clarice ordered her warriors. Whatever else you could say about Clarice, she was brave. She was a big girl with cruel eyes like her father's. She looked like she was born to wear Greek battle armor, but I didn't see how often she could stand against that bull's charge. Unfortunately, at that moment, the other bull lost interest in finding Annabeth. It turned, wheeling around behind Clarice on her unprotected side. "Behind you! Look out!" I shouldn't have said anything because all I did was startle her. Bull number one crashed into her shield and the phalanx broke. Clarice went flying backwards and landed in a smoldering patch of grass. The bull charged past her, but not before blasting other heroes with its fiery breath. Their shields melted right off their arms. They dropped their weapons and ran as bull number two closed in on Clarice for a kill. I lunged forward and grabbed Clarice by the straps of her armor. I dragged her out of the way just as bull number two freight trained past. I gave it a good swipe with Riptide and cut a huge gash of its flank, but the monster just creaked and groaned and kept on going. It hadn't touched me, but I could feel the heat of its metal skin. Its body temperature could have microwaved a frozen burrito. "Let me go! Pursue, pursue!" Clarice pummeled my hand. I dropped her in a heap next to the pine tree and turned to face the bolts. We were on the inside slope of the hill now. The valley of Camp Hut led directly below us. The cabins and the training facilities, the big house, all of it at risk if these bulls got past us. Annabeth shouted orders to the other heroes, telling them to spread out and keep the bulls distracted. Bull number one ran a wide arc, making its way back towards me. As it passed the middle of the hill where the invisible boundary lines should have kept it out, it slowed a little as if it was struggling against a strong wind, but then it broke through and kept coming. Bull number two turned to face me, fire spluttering from the gash I'd cut it cut in its side. I couldn't tell if it felt any pain, but its ruby eyes seemed to glare at me like I just made things personal. I couldn't fight both bulls at the same time. I'd have to take down bull number two first, cut its head off before bull number one charged back into the range. My arms already felt tired. I realized how long it had been since I'd worked out with Riptide, how out of practice I was. I lunged, but bull number two blew flames at me. I rolled aside as the air turned to pure heat. All the oxygen was sucked out of my lungs. My foot caught on something, a tree root maybe, and pain shot up my ankle. Still, I managed to slash my sword and lop off part of the monster's snout. It galloped away, wild and disoriented. But before I could feel too good about that, I tried to stand and my left leg buckled underneath me. My ankle was sprained, maybe broken. Bull number one charged straight towards me. No way could I crawl out of its path. Annabeth shouted, "Tyson, help him!" Somewhere near towards the crest of the hill, Tyson wailed, "Can't get through." I, Annabeth Chase, give you permission to enter the camp. Thunder shook the hillside. Suddenly Tyson was there, barreling towards me, yelling, "Percy needs help." Before I could tell him no, he tugged between me and the wall, just as it unleashed a nuclear firestorm. "Tyson!" I yelled. The blast swirled around him like a red tornado. I could only see the black silhouette of his body. I knew with horrible certainty that my friend had just turned into a column of ashes. But when the fire died, Tyson was still standing there, completely unharmed. Not even his grungy clothes were scorched. The wall must have been as surprised as I was, because before it could unleash a second blast, Tyson balled his fists and slammed them into Wolf's face. "Bad cow!" It's a cold, Tyson, but it's okay. Your heart is in the right place." His fists made a crater where the bronze bull's snout should used to be. Two small columns of flame shot out of its ears. Tyson hit it again, and the bronze crumpled under his hands like aluminium foil. Let me repeat it again. Aluminium foil. The bull's face now looked like a sock puppet pulled inside out. "Down!" Tyson yelled. The bull staggered and fell on its back. Its legs moved feebly in air, steam coming out of its ruined head in odd places. Annabeth ran over to check on me. My ankle felt like it was filled with acid, but she gave me some Olympian nectar to drink from her canteen, and I immediately started to feel better. There was a burning smell that I later learned was me. The hair on my arms had been completely singed off. "Other world," Annabeth pointed down the hill. "Clarice had taken care of bad cow number two. She'd impaled it through the back leg with celestial bronze spear. Now, with its snout half gone and huge gash on its side, it was trying to run in slow motion, going in circles like some kind of merry-go-round animal." Clarice pulled off her helmet and marched towards us. A strand of her stringy brown hair was smoldering, but she didn't seem to notice. "You ruin everything," she yelled at me. "I had it under control." I was too stunned to answer. Annabeth grumbled. "Good to see you too, Clarice." "Ugh, ah!" Clarice screamed. "Don't ever try try saving me again." "Clarice, you've got wounded campers," Annabeth said. That sobered her up. Even Clarice cared about soldiers under her command. "I'll be back," she growled, then trudged off to assess the damage. I stared at Tyson. "You didn't die." "I'm sorry. Came to help. Disobeyed you." Tyson looked down like he was embarrassed. I just want to give Tyson a hug. "My fault. I had no choice. I had to let Tyson cross the boundary line to save you. Otherwise you would have died." "Let him cross the boundary line." "But, Percy, have you ever looked at Tyson closely? I mean, in the face? Ignore the mist and really look at him. The mist makes humans see only what their brains process. I knew it could fool demigods too, but..." I looked Tyson in the face. It wasn't easy. I'd always had trouble looking directly at him, though. I'd never quite understood why. I'd thought it was just because he always had peanut butter in his cricket teeth. I forced myself to focus on his big lumpy nose, then a little higher at his eyes. "No, no, not eyes. One eye, one large calf brown eye, right in the middle of his forehead, with thick lashes and big tears trickling down his cheeks on either side. Hi, Senora, Cyclops, Annabeth offered. A baby, by the looks of him, probably why he couldn't get past the boundary line as easily as the boys. Tyson's one of the homeless orphans. One of the what? They are in almost all the cities, Annabeth said distastefully. They are mistakes. Hussy, children of nature, spirits and gods. Well, one god in particular, usually, and they don't always come out right. No one wants them. They get tossed aside. They grow up wild on the streets. They don't know this one. I don't know how this one found you, but he obviously likes you. We could take him to Pyro and let him decide what to do. But the fire, how? He's a cyclops. Annabeth paused, as if she were remembering something unpleasant. They work the forges of the gods. They have to be immune to fire. That's what I was trying to tell you. Was completely shocked. How had I never realized what Tyson was? But I didn't have much time to think about it just then. The whole side of the hill was burning. Wounded heroes needed attention, and there were still two banged up bronze bowls to dispose of, which I didn't figure would fit in our normal recycle bins. Clarice came back over and wiped the soot off her forehead. Jackson, if you can stand up, get up. We need to carry the wounded back to the big house. Let Tantalus know what's happened. Tantalus? The activities director. Chiron is the activities director. Where's Argus? He's the head of security. He should be here. Clarice made a sour face. Argus got fired. You two have been gone too long. Things are changing. But Chiron, he's trained kids to fight monsters for over 3,000 years. He can't just be gone. What happened? That happened. She pointed to Thalia's tree. Every camper knew the story behind the tree. 6 years ago, Grover, Annabeth, and two other demigods named Thalia and Luke had come to Camp Half-Blood chased by an army of monsters. When they got cornered on top of this hill, Thalia, a daughter of Zeus, had made her last stand here to give her friends time to reach safety. As she was dying, her father Zeus took pity on her and changed her into a pine tree. Her spirit had reinforced the magic borders of the camp, protecting it from the monsters. The pine had been here ever since, long, strong and healthy, but now its needles were yellow. A huge pile of dead ones littered the base of the tree. In the center of the trunk, a meter from the ground, was a puncture mark the size of a bullet hole, oozing green sap. A silver of ice ran through my chest. Now I understood why camp was in danger. The magical borders were failing because Thalia's tree was dying. Someone had poisoned it. Seriously, why would you do that? Also, on some news, I I ended up watching Percy Jackson movies again. I like to rewatch them from time to time. And this time I was highly critical. And this time I actually did understand why people were so pissed about these movies not being as good as they should have been. I understood it why, but I am also saddened by the fact that I understood that because I watched that film only and only for Logan Lerman and Alexandra Daddario, two of the most beautiful creatures of this planet. And now I have to look at that movie critically every time I look at it. So I'm going to try to not be very judgmental about the movies every time I look at it and think of it as a new movie that is not related to the book at all, which would be very difficult because the books do leave an imprint in my brain. On another note, I was thinking that if I work things out, then maybe I could have an evening session with Twitch, and then I could um, download. Then I could, OBS this thing with Twitch and have that video downloaded to YouTube and then upload it later on YouTube, and maybe start a new series on Twitch. But that is a long shot. I don't know what I'm going to do anyway. So sorry if my voice was low this afternoon, mostly because my mother she's asleep, an afternoon nap, and this is the time I usually say things out loud. So I tried to keep mic as close to my face as possible so that I could say it out loud. Anyway, it was fun to have you guys around. Again, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I absolutely love reading, so this is a good thing for me. I will see you guys tomorrow with chapter 5 and 6. Till then, goodbye.